The world in front of me is like a dream, and the silhouette of a human being covered under a white veil seems to be talking about something, but the whispering voice is too weak to distinguish. Just as I was about to listen closer, a huge suction force dragged everything into the white veil, and the human silhouette hidden in it was not a creature at all, but a piece of universe, a piece of void, and a piece of unknown. Now I can hear clearly, now I can hear the whispers under the white gauze. It is an extremely strange and inexplicable language. It seems to be understood, but it can't be understood. Countless bizarre knowledge is instilled in the brain, and the scalp is broken, making people almost crazy. The young man gasped and woke up from his sleep. He stood up abruptly as if he hit something with his elbow. He turned his head and saw a lantern overturned on the ground. There was half a black candle in it, and a blue flame flickered on it. He saw that the flame was about to burn to the crumpled letter beside him, so he hurriedly straightened the lantern. Why should the lamp be turned on in broad daylight now? The young man was puzzled and suddenly blew on the blue flame. The strange thing was that the flame that seemed to be extinguished could not be extinguished no matter what. The intricate carvings on the lamp base became more and more palpitating, and the already confused thoughts became more chaotic under the influence of the blue flame. The young man didn't want to be in the same room with this lantern, so he hurried out of the wet tent. Recently, young people often have the dream just now. In that dream, it seems that some unknown person wants to communicate with him, but his spirit cannot bear the message from the other party. Every time I receive an intermittent sentence, I wake up with severe mental pain, nausea, discomfort, and my soul seems to be pulled away. However, the information received this time was different from before, as if it was urging him to do something, but the meaning that could be understood in the dream became blurred after waking up. Lord Duke, you're awake. A man who looked like a guard outside the tent saw the young man coming out, and hurried forward to offer his condolences. At this time, the memory of the young man was still a little confused. He remembered that his name was Du Wei, but the guard standing in front of him called him Duke. After taking a closer look at this person, he still recognizes him. It is his father's personal guard named Howard, but why is he protecting him now, and why is he here? Wait, it seems that my name is not Du Wei, but Doug Victor. Du Wei's thoughts were a little confused. He looked around and observed the surrounding situation. At this moment, they were in the valley. Apart from the guards who had just come up to talk to them, there were more than a dozen people patrolling around. These people were all father's personal guards. Du Wei vaguely recalled some things. In the town surrounded by the flames of despair, his father handed over the inheritance in his mouth to him, and then returned to the battlefield with his subordinates, and went to the outer city where the monsters raged alone. People who are evacuating by time. The memory was interrupted at this point, and the back of the neck would ache when thinking about it again. Du Wei rubbed the swollen back of the neck and looked at the guard beside him. Howard, why are we here? What happened to my father? Howard glanced at Du Wei's red and swollen nape, and swallowed. At that time, the situation was urgent, and Du Wei's father asked him to take Du Wei into the forest of shadows and hide in this hidden valley. But Du Wei tried his best to resist and wanted to go out of the city with his father to meet the monsters. Howard had no choice but to knock Du Wei out with a knife, and then carried him over. Judging from the current situation, the young master must have lost his memory. Howard, who had a strong desire to survive, knew that he would tell the young master some white lies at this time. The situation was urgent, and the master asked us to take you to evacuate here first. There was a fire in the city and thick smoke was billowing. Maybe you were choked out, we saw you unconscious, so we came here behind your back. Du Wei looked at Howard suspiciously, not sure whether his words were true or not. If he was really choked out, it would be carbon monoxide poisoning. Wait, what is carbon monoxide? Why do I know this? Du Wei tried again to clear his mind and recall the past. The parents in the memory are both strange and familiar. The strange is Du Wei, and the familiar is Du Ji. What is wrong with me? Why do I feel that I have two identities? Split personality? What is split personality? Du Wei's scalp was numb, and the more he thought about it, the more dizzy he became. Howard saw the young master's eager eyes, scratching his ears and cheeks anxiously, as if he was trying to recall something. If it reminded him of how he passed out, Howard hurried forward to interrupt. "Master, have you read the letter that the master left for you?" Before leaving, the master specifically asked Howard to remind the young master to read all the letters. Du Wei's thoughts were perfectly interrupted, and he looked at Howard with a blank face. Howard pursued the victory and continued, "It is the letter that the master gave you before leaving. The content on it is very important, you must read it." Du Wei scratched his head, and suddenly remembered that there was indeed a crumpled letter in the tent, which was almost lit by a lantern just now. When he returned to the tent, he seemed to have kicked something away, and looked around. Apart from the lantern and letters, it was just a pile of sundries that he carried with him. After confirming that he did not kick the lantern down again this time, Du Wei picked up the letter and checked, "My dearest son, the ancient True did not abandon us. Your birth is the perfect proof. You must have been troubled by why you were born knowing this. This is the talent bestowed on you by the true God, allowing you to retain the memory of your previous life and come to this world guide mankind to prosperity and defeat monsters. That lantern is a sacred object given to our family by the true God. Light the candle on it, and the fire of hope will lead us to the light and give you invincible authority in the world." Father's handwriting was very large, and just 2 or 3 sentences filled a page, arranged crookedly on the straw paper. "Born to know it? What the hell, this letter could not have been given to the wrong son. It was handed over to him by mistake. In fact, his father wanted to give it to other sons." Du Wei thought so, looking at the used matches on the ground. He must have lit the lantern when he saw this before, but he fell into a coma for some reason. Flip to the second page, but remember, the moment the flame is ignited, it will generate a lot of power, which will have a strong impact on the spirit of the igniter, so please make preparations first. Once the flame is ignited, it cannot be extinguished, otherwise the True will send divine punishment to punish those ignorant torch guardians. Only the wildest or most intense emotional awareness can feed the flame to keep it burning." After reading this, Du Wei wanted to scold someone. What happened to his father? If his vital capacity is not enough, it's fine to speak out of breath, but how can he still be out of breath when he writes this letter? How? When writing, I was afraid that my hands would shake and I had to hold my breath, because I broke the chapter at such a critical place. Also, why did I light the candle in such a hurry that I didn't even bother to turn over one more page? Now the candle was about to burn to the base of the tail, and the time until he received God's punishment had entered the countdown. It says only the craziest or strongest emotional awareness can be used as nourishment, so is it crazy or the strongest emotional awareness that I am going to be driven crazy now? Du Wei vaguely recalled some things. He originally wanted to share Will and Woe with his father, but Howard insisted on dragging himself away. The most irritating thing is that this guy neglects to exercise on weekdays, and he still hasn't knocked himself out with a knife in one hand, so he cut him several times, and he was dizzy and dizzy. The back of the neck is unbearably swollen. Even a dog couldn't do it, but Howard not only did it, but also concealed the truth and lied to himself. That's why I wanted to quickly gain the power of being invincible in the world, so I lit the black candle without looking down. But the problem is that now the authority has not been seen, and he is still insane intermittently. For a while, he feels that his name is Du Ji, and for a while he thinks that he is Du Wei. Du Wei knew in his heart that now was not the time to argue with Howard, and the top priority was to figure out how to use the lantern. Flip to the third page. By the way, the large amount of power released by the candle will eventually condense into an entity, which is the family member closest to the true God. You need to obtain its approval to control the authority that is invincible in the world. If you don't get its approval, it may cause backlash against you, so please light the candle after you are fully prepared and ensure that you have the ability to subdue that family member even if you are not recognized. Love your father the most, Sana Victor stay. Du Wei slowly raised his head, he felt a chill down his back, and from the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a pair of faint blue vertical pupils approaching him quietly. With the help of this dim candlelight, he couldn't see clearly there is something hidden under the vertical pupils, only a dark shadow. The biting cold air hit his lungs like ice cones, and Du Wei had to hold his breath to guard against the coming surprise attack. Just before the opponent was ready to attack, Du Wei made a move first, and he turned his head suddenly to look. The dagger in his hand was not out of its sheath. He saw a mouth rushing towards him, and sharp claws grabbed his shoulders one by one. Damn! Du Wei cursed shortly and forcefully. Meow! A piercing meow sounded, and the big face of a black cat hit the air barrier and slid down along the outer wall. Du Wei didn't have a chance to take out his dagger to resist at the moment of crisis, but fortunately, this family member didn't seem very smart, and his strength was not strong. It looked like an ordinary black cat, and it blocked its sneak attack with the instant arcane barrier. Du Wei did not underestimate the enemy because of this. He rushed out of the tent and called Howard and others over. Everyone carefully opened the curtain of the tent, and there was silence inside, and the black cat just disappeared. Du Wei searched around, and the lantern also disappeared, which made him feel a little anxious. If the candle goes out, it would be bad if the true in his father's mouth would punish him. God knows what kind of punishment it would be. Young man, as a contractor, you dare to treat my lord like this? Do you know that I am a confidant of Lord Yog-Sothoth? Am I tired of working? A voice similar to a hoarse old witch came from the dark corner. Du Wei looked intently, and the black cat standing upright walking with a lamp loomed there. Howard also noticed the abnormality, and stepped forward to block Du Wei. Hey, yo, what's the matter with such a big fight? You want to beat me up? I came to guide you, but you just elbowed me out when you just woke up. After a long time of spinning, I finally woke up. But you just don't have eyes. Come in and kick me out, pretend I don't exist. Black Cat scolded Du Wei angrily. Du Wei carefully recalled that when he first woke up, his elbow did hit something. At that time, he thought it was a lantern, but now it feels completely different. Later, when he returned to the tent, he also kicked something, but he didn't care about it when he just thought about reading the letter. Aha, so it's my confidant. Du Wei rubbed his hands together, smiling flatteringly subconsciously. Why? Wait, when did I become so servile? Even if I am facing the family members of the true that my father said, I still have to maintain my aristocratic demeanor. The guards present also heard the legend of the Victor family from Du Wei's father, and knew that they were inextricably linked with the ancient gods. Seeing Du Wei's attitude, everyone thought they were facing the family of the true god. The normal etiquette posture at the time, one by one hurriedly rubbed their hands and said with a smile, Aha, so it's my confidant. From the Black Cat's point of view, it's weird for a group of people to approach slowly like this. He is like a big girl surrounded by a group of hooligans. It is just a bridge used by Lord Yog-Sothoth to communicate with the contractor. In order to prevent the other party from falling into madness when they see him, his own strength is also sealed after coming to this world, so as not to cause spiritual pollution to the contractor. Now it seems that these guys would not have known this earlier, so they started the ceremony to summon themselves. As for the purpose, it is not surprising whether it is to sacrifice themselves to the old rulers of other camps or to eat them alive. It retreats a little half a step, stay vigilant against Du Wei and others. Ordinary human beings will fall into madness after staring at the true they know, that is, the old ruler. After the summoner starts the ceremony, he will definitely see the old ruler. Even if it is only for a moment, it will make them fall into a semi-crazy state. Do a lot of irrational activities. You, don't mess around, let me tell you, this light is about to go out. If you don't open the channel of truth and lead your family to come down, your energy will be exhausted. If you don't want to die together, just do as I said." The black cat looked stern, raised the lantern to his chest and said to everyone, "This performance is very similar to a young girl who said don't come here. To a kind of hooligan." Du Wei didn't care about the black cat, and stared at the lantern. It turned out that the power that this lamp can bestow is to shake people from another world. If it can recruit those world destroyers in Xiangxia novels, it will indeed be invincible in the world. But looking at the attitude of the black cat now, it is obvious that he is dissatisfied with the attitude of his side and others, which is extremely unfavorable to the negotiation between the two parties. Du Wei immediately raised his face and asked tentatively, "Ahem, my lord, it's a great honor for you to respond to our call. What you care about is exactly what I worry about, but the call also consumes energy. That's inevitable." The black cat saw that Du Wei's attitude was a little more normal, and a big stone in his heart fell slightly, and his words became louder. "If you want to summon powerful humans or monsters from other worlds, how much energy can you summon? And the supplementary method requires the most intense or crazy emotional energy. This is how strong and crazy they need to be. How can we plunder them? Pretend to be a ghost to scare them?" Du Wei raised all his questions in one go. The black cat feels something is wrong. The contractor this time probably doesn't even know the content of the contract. "You must be dreaming. Let's not talk about powerful humans, even if you can summon monsters from other worlds. You reading www.youcansha.com. What means do you have to control the other party? Besides, you don't know the content of the contract for using the lantern." Du Wei picked up his father's letter and unfolded it page by page for the black cat to read. "This is everything I know." The black cat swept over, and looked at Du Wei in surprise. "Your clan, shouldn't the inheritance be broken long ago? When was the last person to sign a contract with a lantern?" Du Wei vaguely remembered what his father had told him, but at this moment the memory was still a little confused, and he couldn't fully recall it. He only remembered a story that seemed to be a long time ago. Seeing Du Wei's bewildered face, the black cat sighed. It is estimated that the family that believes in Lord Yog-Sothoth has not opened a contract for several generations, and the young man in front of him knows little about family inheritance. "I should have thought of it a long time ago. After all, the opening conditions are harsh, and the backlash effect is great. There are very few contractors who can leave offspring, so I can only guide him bit by bit. But it's not a big problem. Since it can be successfully summoned, it means that the contractor itself is qualified. The family members that can be summoned by using the lantern must be related to your previous life. For example, if you were an emperor in a different world in your last life, you can order the people who submit to you to pass through the channel of truth to become your family members. Or if you are a famous general, you can summon followers who believe in you to become family members, and sect leaders, sons of heaven, and founders of schools can call their followers to become family members. Only this kind of person reincarnated can summon me here, otherwise the summoned one will be an existence capable of destroying the world, and come to destroy those contractors who don't know the heights of the heavens and the earth, and use lanterns indiscriminately. So who in your previous life was in another world? People who left traces in history." Du Wei was stunned for 2 seconds, and the chaotic memory in his mind finally sorted out part of it. The reason for the disorder and contradiction was because of the memory of 2 lifetimes. He remembered that he was an independent game producer born in Blue Star in his last life, named Du Wei. In order to promote his game, he has been respectful to the management all day long, but he has not received a response. Helpless, I had to make it silently, and finally put it on the game store silently. After he stayed up late to code the last string of codes and uploaded the game he independently made, he lay peacefully on the table and couldn't sleep. When I recalled this past again, I have been reincarnated in this world for more than 5 years. Although I tried my best to hide my memory, my father still saw that I was different, otherwise he would not have mentioned in the letter that I am those who are born to know. Then here comes the problem, the contractors mentioned by the Black Cat have imperial power, military power, and divine power in their world. They are not at the same level as him at all. Own family. After listening to the Black Cat's explanation, the guards probably understood the situation. That is to say, only the reincarnation of a famous person in the Victor family in the previous life can summon the Black Cat in front of him and drive the lantern to order the former subordinates to be used by the contractor. In this way, the Doug Victor in front of him must have been a big shot in his previous life. Whether it is here or in another world, it is definitely not an ordinary person who can break through the world. Master Doug, I, Howard is, swear here that I will serve you as your most loyal servant in this life. Howard raised his long sword above his head and knelt down on one knee to swear to Du Wei. A seemingly invisible silver thread protruded from his chest and slowly connected to the little finger of Du Wei's left hand. The declaration made by Howard is a kind of spiritual contract in this world. If you violate the spirit, you will fall into endless madness, and your soul will be lost forever. The other guards came to their senses after seeing Howard swear the highest standard to the young master, and they all followed suit. The oath they made to Du Wei's father could not reach this height, and some of them were not optimistic about Du Wei at all before and wanted to escape long ago. But now it is different. A talking cat is a black cat that was summoned from the legacy of the Victor family, telling everyone that only the reincarnation of a big man in the previous life can summon it here. It is not difficult to hear from his words that this type of reincarnation must also meet the conditions of having past life memories. That is to say, the current young master not only has the memory of the previous life, but also has the great talent and strategy to separate one side. Following such a great figure with unlimited potential must have a bright future, and now is the best time to swear allegiance. Seeing this battle, Du Wei was a little flattered. My last life wasn't a great person. Although these people are personal guards, they are nothing more than a group of strong rural men. After all, the Victor family is now in decline, and real knights are not willing to serve them at all. When everyone heard Du Wei's words, they all looked up blankly, exchanged glances, and showed a look of being at a loss. Howard used his naive little brain to think about it, and suddenly realized that the young master was just being humble, and it scared them. These guys probably thought that he had sworn allegiance to the wrong person. Thinking about this, Howard immediately stood up and bowed his head. Master, we are not stupid, you don't need to be humble with us here, and everyone has sworn allegiance now. This is a contract that cannot be broken. If you need to do anything, just say, we will definitely do our best. The others also reacted and echoed. Du Wei didn't know how to explain it. This Howard is a tough, silly, stupid kind. Is this going to give his teammates a halo of lowering the intelligence of all members? He looked at the black cat and then at the lantern. Regardless of whether he could summon the human beings who obeyed his orders, the most urgent problem to be solved right now was how to replenish the energy for the lantern. The current length of the black candle was less than 2 centimeters. It's burning, and it won't last long. Irrespective of whether I can summon servants or not, the lamp is going out. Where can it be replenished with the most insane or intense emotional awareness to maintain its flame? The black cat made a gesture of spreading its hands and explained to Du Wei, that's why I asked about your identity. Only when the family members summoned by the lantern have a strong or crazy emotional awareness can they become nutrients and energy and turn them into black candles. However, when their connection with the lantern becomes more stable, they can also become a humanoid medium and spread it to other creatures in this world. At that time, the strong or crazy emotional consciousness they emit can also be absorbed by the lantern. Du Wei stood there speechless on the spot. Isn't this cheating? He was an independent game producer in his previous life, so where did he fool people to travel to another world and become his family member? Etc. Du Wei suddenly remembered that the content of the independent game he produced was just in line with the environment of this world. Steampunk, Warcraft, and the strange ruler hidden in the dark ruled the world. According to the Black Cat, a contractor like himself can open the channel of truth to summon the former troops to help in the battle, so it is better to make a bolder guess. Use that game as a port to connect here. Let the people on Blue Star players use the immersive game pod as an interface. It seems that he has entered the game world, but the actual situation is to come here to earn energy for himself. There are monsters and beasts outside, weird and unpredictable. When you leave the village and see these extremely real horror scenes, you will definitely be frightened, and a strong and crazy emotional awareness will be produced. Perfect. Du Wei silently praised his idea in his heart. The only thing to be confirmed is whether they will go crazy or even die after they come, whether it will affect their entities in the immersion cabin. After all, Du Wei is not a demon. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Just scare and frighten casually. There is no need to make a scene like a cult sacrifice, causing mass casualties, so you must confirm with the Black Cat before implementing it. I still don't know how to address you. Du Wei thought that he couldn't just call the Black Cat in front of him Mr. Confidant, so he asked casually. The real name given to me by Lord Hugo Sothos is indescribable, so you can call me Asha. The Black Cat slowly stroked the hair on its front paws with its tongue. Understood. You guys go out first, I have something to discuss with Lord Asaya in detail. Du Wei said to everyone pretending to be deep. The guards exited the tent one after another. After confirming that no one was overhearing at the door, Du Wei whispered in front of the Black Cat. Asaya, how do you open this channel of truth? Can you customize it according to my ideas? The Black Cat. Asha frowned slightly. Why, you were not authoritative enough in your last life, so if you go back and wave your arms, no one will go with you. That's not true, it's just that my people are quite special and need a little guidance, but as long as they are willing to come, they will have unlimited potential. Du Wei winked, seeing that the Black Cat. Asaya was one head and too big, and he didn't know what does he want to do. Looking back on the past, one of the strange contractors that the Black Cat. Asha had met was really similar to Du Wei in front of him. If he went directly back to that world and waved his arms, the Knights of the Justice Order would have chopped off his dog's head before the servants showed up. Ah, your servant is quite special, so you need a special channel to get in touch, right? Don't worry, Master Yogo Sototh is omnipotent. If you have any ideas, just ask. There is absolutely no Master Yogo Sototh who can't do it. Yes. The Black Cat. Asha said, patting her chest. This remark gave Du Wei a reassurance. Since the Yugo Sotos in the mouth of the Black Cat. Asha is so powerful, it must be easy to use a game as an interface to summon players here. Now there is only one last question, one more thing, if my servants come here and fall into madness or die, can they be resurrected? After all, the energy is limited now. If they hang here just after being summoned, wouldn't it be a waste of time? Then summon the most powerful servants directly, don't let the weak chickens get in the way. The Black Cat. Asha said with a look of disgust, but after thinking about it carefully, the leader of the cult who signed the contract before will die. It was because the elite were wiped out, and only a group of mobs were left to be easily surrounded and suppressed by the religious group. It seems that this time the contractor is also a leader of a cult and has not run away. No wonder he was so modest before saying that he is not a big shot. How can he be modest? He is simply embarrassed to say it, for fear of being beaten to death by everyone on the spot. Just when Du Wei thought that the person who summoned him would die in real life, and was distressed by it. The Black Cat continued, of course there is also a summoning mode that transmits part of their spirit and attaches it to the shaped body. This will cause your servants to lose their original strength and need to retrain a new body. In this way, even if the body dies, it won't have much impact on them. It's just that falling into a state of complete madness will make the body's spirit sluggish, and it will take a long time to recover. However, the basic ability of this new body is very weak. Poor, 30 or 40 can beat one of your current personal guards. Hearing this, Du Wei was relieved a lot. As long as he cannot die, everything is easy to talk about. If the basic ability is poor, you can exercise slowly. The only thing to worry about is the state of complete madness that the black cat Asaya said. What is the critical point of the complete madness? Is there a sign? I can directly feel this. If you decide to use this plan, I can tell you in advance when someone is about to be unable to hold on. The black cat Asia held her head high, giving people a sense of control. Feel. For Du Wei, as long as the black cat Asha can perceive it, it will be easy to handle. It's all made into a game. There is no need for Asha to remind herself one by one, as long as the players connect to the status bar and add the SAN value of the item. If someone is going crazy, he will be persuaded to quit, and if he is close to the critical point, he will be kicked out if he does not retreat. After eliminating all risks, Du Wei breathed a sigh of relief, and began to tell the black cat Asha about the precautions for opening the channel of truth and the idea of making this a similar game scene. The black cat Asha was dumbfounded when she heard it. It is not easy to be a leader of a cult these days, and she also needs to know the internet and see language. A world of master technology. No, it's not easy for him, it's obviously not easy for him. The black cat Asia used to open the truth channel to confirm the coordinates of 2 points, and then just open the door and it's over. Now it is not only necessary to connect to the network of another world, but also to be anchored in a game. Just now it said that the great Yogo Sothos is omnipotent. Master Si doesn't have such leisure time. Asaya is autistic. These days, the cult leader will not let go of the family members of the old rulers, and they will come to work as coolies. It manifests a computer and programs it while collecting the knowledge of Blue Star through telepathy. Code-making port. This is outrageous, because what Du Wei provided to the Black Cat Asha was a standalone game, and now it not only needs to be modified to be connected to the internet, but also connected to a different world. I always feel that this guy does not look like a cult leader. After the Black Cat Asha connected to Blue Star's network, she first got to know the culture there, and only then did she understand what Du Wei's identity was. Compared with such people, the leader of the cult is nothing compared to this kind of person. The former is not legal to cheat, everything has to be done secretly, and you have to be careful about the relevant departments who come to check the water meter at any time, but people like Du Wei are different. Packaging it with games, tricking people into voluntary dedication, and then using all kinds of tricks to blood and exploit people love and hate, this kind of dog, no, there is a collective name for this kind of people, that is, dog planner. There is no turning back when you open the bow. Since you have already agreed, how can you, as the family of Yugo Sothos, break your promise to mere humans, and can only pinch your nose to plan and do things for the dog beside you? Du Wei saw that the Black Cat Asha began to concentrate on his work, he smiled with relief and did not bother it anymore. When Du Wei was making this game, he wanted to have a group of like-minded partners to fight with him. Unfortunately, imagination is beautiful, but reality is brutal. He can't pay wages, and he doesn't have equipment. Who would follow him to generate electricity with love? Today, he finally got his wish and found a black cat, Asia, who is willing to generate electricity with love for him. No need to feed, no need to rest, hard work, tireless, he only needs supervision. Lead the Black Cat Asha on the right track. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Du Wei thought again of those personal guards who were willing to do their best for him, and it was time to come out and assign some work to them. Master, when will your family arrive? Howard saw Du Wei stepping out of the tent, and trotted over and asked excitedly. Du Wei was slightly embarrassed. Ahem, it will take another day to connect to the channel. By the way, where is this place? This is a valley located in the Forest of Shadows. Howard Hui reported. Du Wei frowned and said, there are monsters in the Forest of Shadows, why do you come here? Don't worry, this is a reservation specially left by the master. There is a hidden enchantment around it. The level of monsters in the Shadow Forest is not high, and they will not approach here due to the influence of the enchantment. Howard said with a smile. Du Wei heaved a sigh of relief, but this place was in ruins. The dilapidated stone tile house was not as good as his tent, and those rotten beams might fall down and hit the people below at any time. How long will our food last? Du Wei continued to ask. Now these words are enough for everyone present to eat for a week, but tomorrow the passage of truth will be opened, you can bring food from there, and then we will have no worries about eating and drinking, ha ha ha. Howard showed his big yellow teeth happily laughing out loud. Du Wei's face was gloomy, and he carried the food from the virtual server and gave the code to everyone. It's better to let them drink the northwest wind directly, at least it is a real substance, it's not as optimistic as you think, only people can come through the truth channel, food can't be brought, and there is one thing that needs your cooperation. The summoned family members must communicate with them according to the lines I set for you, and you are not allowed to disclose information about me or yourself. Howard nodded like a pounding garlic, calling everyone to come and follow Du Wei's arrangement. Although the monsters in the Forest of Shadows are not strong, they are enough to deal with players who only have the combat power of ordinary people. In the next period of time, players will slowly develop around here, and will not have the opportunity to touch the world outside the Forest of Shadows. Du Wei defined the ruins as a hidden village that had been destroyed by monsters and was in a state of disrepair. He himself was the village head, and the roles of everyone were blacksmiths, cobblers, doctors, bar owners, etc. The first thing the players do after they arrive is to guide them to rebuild their homes and stockpile food. Everyone distributes tasks to them according to their roles. At this stage, the reward is only the friendliness of the players. If the friendliness is high, they can help them heal injuries, build equipment, etc. In the future, more energy will be accumulated in the lantern, and it can also be used to communicate with the secret realm where the Black Cat Asha was summoned to, obtain the ancient coins that Yugo Sothos bestowed on the contractor, and give these to the player as additional rewards. Howard was a little puzzled by Du Wei's decision. Aren't they your servants? Why do we deceive them like this? And pay them? Ahem, why is this a lie? In the world of my previous life. Du Wei thought about his choice of words a little bit, and continued, call this cultural exchange in another world where equality and freedom are advocated, and the leaders are only responsible for macro control. Macro. As soon as Howard said 2 words, Du Wei signaled him not to speak. The times are different, and some things are difficult to explain, not to mention that Du Wei casually said about macro control, so it is better to find some simple and easy-to-understand knowledge points to explain to them. Do you understand cultural exchange? People in different regions have different customs. Only by understanding each other's customs can we coexist and prosper. I asked you to do this so that they can adapt to our customs and quickly integrate into life. Do you understand? Howard nodded stupidly with his mouth half open, and when Du Wei stopped talking, he received, then what's the matter with macro control? Du Wei couldn't get angry, what's the matter with this thing, and he kept asking if he had answered the question. It was the content of elective courses in college, and Du Wei happened to think of such a thing words, say whatever you want. Now Du Wei can't wait to give Howard 2 slaps, but seeing the other party's eyes full of curiosity, he is a little bit reluctant, so he puts a hand on Howard's shoulder. Do you know what advocating freedom and equality is? Howard shook his head, and Du Wei smiled knowingly, so it would be easy to handle. Let him interrupt this first, and he will probably forget about macro control after the talk. Originally, it only needed 2 or 3 sentences to explain clearly, but Du Wei crushed it, disassembled it, and talked about it repeatedly for half an hour in Che Zulu. Ah, so that's the case. After hearing this, Howard showed an expression of enlightenment, his mouth half opened and his little brain slowly shaking up and down. The macro. Du Wei immediately interrupted, that's too profound. It took me half an hour to understand freedom and equality. It takes at least several hours for macro control. That's something a leader like me needs to understand. You don't need to understand, or, you want to take over and take my place. Howard shook his head quickly. I didn't mean that, young master, I signed a contract of loyalty with you. Okay, okay, you don't dare to measure, and from now on, call me Mr. Village Chief, don't keep calling me young master. Du Wei waved his hand, indicating that he can leave. Okay. Master Howard vowed. Du Wei turned around and was about to enter the tent when he almost stumbled and fell into the ground when he heard Howard's roar, call the village chief. It was only then that Howard realized that he had made a mistake again, and quickly changed his words, yes. Yes. Mr. Village Chief. I have entrusted you with a heavy responsibility, don't disappoint my expectations, go back and practice according to the lines. Du Wei finally said. Howard became more and more excited as he listened. He didn't expect the young master to entrust them with such a heavy responsibility, to conduct equal and free cultural exchanges with people from other worlds, and to be personally controlled by the young master as the leader. It is a strong stroke that will be recorded in the annals of history. Among all the personal guards present, he is the only one who is educated and can read and write. The excited Howard immediately took out the graphite stick and straw paper that he had treasured for a long time after the dissolution, and recorded today's scenes. The people who received the task dispersed and began to pack their bags. Now they are all wearing armor, and they don't look like ordinary villagers. They all dressed themselves up according to the task assigned by Du Wei. They were in a hurry when they came, and the daily clothes they brought were limited after all. A trekking pole. Let him heal people's injuries, I'm afraid it's not necessary to do a dance first. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. The role Howard wants to play is the owner of the grocery store. He doesn't look like a boss, but the grocery store is dressed in a suit. If he sits down and covers his face, it looks like a grocery store that sells no one. It has the temperament of a knockoff transformer. Du Wei felt a little migraine when he saw the appearance of everyone. Can't everyone engage in something in the world? Du Wei, who was going to repack the crowd by himself, chose to give up after checking everyone's luggage. It seemed that it was his fault, and they shouldn't be allowed to play role-playing. But thinking about the style of the characters in the game I created back then, it seems to fit well with the current people's outfits. Maybe it's not bad to wear them this way. After all, this world is inherently weird, somewhat similar to the style of Diablo. The NPCs in ragged clothes and rags didn't make the players feel that they were out of harmony. The outfits of their own guards were at best unique, and might cause a new wave of cosplay circles. Back in the tent, Du Wei saw that the black cat Asaya was writing a letter. What are you doing? Write the invitation letter. No one knows about your game. It has been in the game store for several months and only 3 downloads have been downloaded. 2 of them have even applied for a refund. There is no publicity about how you attract players. Black Cat tapped looking at the keyboard. He complained to Du Wei without looking back. Du Wei held his chin and pondered for a while. How do you send the invitation letter? Use the algorithm just written to screen out the target group, then hack into the video platform they often use, and replace the advertisement inside with our invitation letter. Black Cat Asaya explained to him. As soon as Du Wei listened to this music, the target audience could be screened out, and he could also forcefully occupy the advertising space, so the invitation letter must not be written like the Black Cat Asia is now. Leave me to write the invitation letter, and you go outside to shoot a piece of CG and put it in the advertisement for promotion. Du Wei picked up the black cat and put it on the ground, and sat in front of the computer to edit. Hey! The black cat Asha looked confused, obviously he didn't quite understand Du Wei's meaning. Go out and record the surrounding environment with your eyes, take a look at the scenery of the shadow forest and the monsters inside, come back and extract this content to make a video. Don't tell me that you can't do such a little thing, you can do anything the Yugo Sothos Familia. Du Wei said to the black cat Asha while editing the invitation letter. This is indeed not difficult for the black cat Asha, but is this really appropriate? Recording a video can be used as an advertisement? In the evening, the black cat Asaya wandered into the forest with doubts, recorded the images with her own eyes, made a CG and handed it over to Du Wei. As for the content of the invitation letter, he also modified it in 7s and 80s. It is not known where Asaya got the inspiration for the original version. Hello everyone, I am Thulhu who was sealed, and now I have the power to rule the world on the bottom of the Bermuda Delta. It doesn't need 3000, not 2000. As long as you play the game I developed, you will be sealed when I return from the ban. You are the first-class envoy to protect the country, you have the title of princes and beauties, and you have everything you expect. If this paragraph is sent out, it will probably attract a few jokers. Even if you copy it hard, just write I, Qin Shi Wang, pay money. At least a few more idiots can be deceived. The black cat Asaya wrote Thulhu here, and the idiots don't know what it is, so how could they believe it? At this time, it is still necessary for Du Wei to design the invitation letter himself. In the early morning of the second day, Du Wei had already sent out the invitation letter. In order to prevent too many players from entering and exceeding the limit of the remaining energy of the black candle, the first batch of invitations was only 100 copies, but it did not mean that only this one was allowed. Hundreds of people entered. Game registration is open, but it will be temporarily closed after 200 people have registered. This number is the maximum that Du Wei can accept. Based on the calculation of 200 people logging in for 12 hours a day, the energy he has left is only enough for 4 days. In Du Wei's vision, if he hasn't made any achievements in 4 days, he can't use the players to replenish the energy. I don't have to go through those few more days to linger on my last breath. It is better to die early and be reborn early, ending his miserable second life. After the black cat Asha came back, he optimized the game and the channel. Now the anchored channel has been connected, and the game body in the mall has been automatically updated to the online version. It is only the last step. Du Wei, who is the contractor, needs to sacrifice to open the channel of truth, so that players who enter the game can smoothly connect to the world here. When Du Wei heard that there was going to be a sacrifice, Du Wei's heart tightened. Could it be that he was asked to kill someone to make a sacrifice? I think so much. It's not to summon our great ruler or his noble family, it's just a port used to connect the two worlds. Bah, it's just a passage. Kill 1 or 2 goblins or kobolds and use them, the blood can complete the magic circle. The black cat Asaya, who was in a trance after editing the code, still hadn't recovered. Leave the killing of goblins to Howard and the others, then I just need to perform the ceremony according to the procedure, right? Du Wei confirmed again. Yeah, that's right, when the players over there receive the call, they will respond to your call and open the door connecting the two worlds. The black cat Asia lay on the ground with its front paws stretched out, slapped the keyboard with its tail, perfecting the last string of codes, is obviously tired of hand coding. No one had a good rest that night, except for Du Wei, who had a tent to shelter from the wind and rain. The others could only make do with the ruins. The forest of shadows is very humid, and there is often light rain. The guards are waiting for people from another world to come to them quickly to receive the task of rebuilding the village and help them build a house that is strong enough to shelter from the wind and rain. Du Wei came to the rock wall designated by the black cat Asaya, and smeared the pattern of the tree of truth on it with goblin blood. He could feel a strange breath seeping out from the rock wall, but the real ceremony has not yet begun, and it is now very weak, as if a light wind can blow it away. On Blue Star, the 100 selected players have already received invitation letters from Du Wei through various video websites. Some people deleted it before opening it, and some people closed it without even looking at it, but most of the selected people chose to read the invitation letter and apply for an appointment for this game called Homeland Expedition. The opening time of the server was at noon on the same day, and the players who made an appointment thought they were lucky enough to experience this game without waiting for a long appointment time. After receiving the invitation letter, Li He, the game up master, inquired about the relevant information of this game. He felt a little baffled that no one paid attention to the independently produced game for several months. However, it was suddenly updated to an online game last night and made a wave of publicity, and the content of this promotion is too gaudy. Can it really be produced by one person? Even the CG in those promotional videos can't be done, unless it is cut from other places, or it is spent money and asked other companies to do it for it. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. But the problem is that Li He, as a well-known game up owner who has read countless games, has never seen any games. He can tell the source of the pictures and film and television content stolen from other places in those garbage games on the market, but in front of him he can't find the source of the CG images of Homeland Expedition at all. It would be even more outrageous to say that the game producer has money to find someone to do the content on his behalf but not to publicize it. These pictures are like using a road-going aerial camera to record a circle in a real scene with a low angle of view. The overall style of painting is slightly weird, but the details are handled quite well, even the saliva flowing from the corners of the monster's mouth. Lifelike. As a new VR game, you must enter the immersive game cabin to open it. This kind of equipment has become popular on BlueStar. In order to log into the game as soon as possible, Li He entered the game cabin early and started the game. Although you can't log in before opening the server, you can set up the character image first. After entering the interface, players can create characters according to their own preferences. There are 2 preset characters, one male and one female, and related attributes can be adjusted according to personal preferences. The details, such as the size and shape of a muscle or a bone, can be changed at will. As a senior player, Li He also felt a little difficult to adjust in the highest precision mode. He could only use the simple face pinching system preset in the game to slightly modify the face and body shape. In order not to collide with other players, Li He adjusted his hair color to golden yellow and his pupil color to blood red. After setting up the character shape, Li He entered his nickname Turbo Duck. He is now full of curiosity about this game, and wants to know whether the CG content is false propaganda. If he is disappointed after starting the game, it will not be a loss for Li He, at least the new issue of Cheating Works has come to fruition. After a few roars, heavy rain poured down. Du Wei knelt down in the valley, with his left hand on the black cat Asia, and his right hand on the lantern flickering with faint candle light. The rain slid down his forehead into counts. A stream of water soaked his clothes. Du Wei's eyes were empty, and he couldn't see a trace of life. He withdrew his left hand from the black cat Asha and took out a key-shaped wooden carving from the clothes on his chest and placed it under the rock wall. This is a silver key substitute carved according to the black cat Asha's request. It is used to open the channel of truth connecting the 2 three-dimensional worlds. He murmured strange words and phrases, and the human silhouette under the white veil in the dream appeared in Du Wei's mind, and began to respond to him with the same strange voice. Du Wei's body trembled slightly at first, but as the strange and inexplicable voice echoed in the valley, the trembling range became more intense. The guards on the sidelines just felt dizzy, as if something had penetrated into their minds. Some wailed in pain, some knelt on the ground and cried, and the breeze did not affect the dead things around them, but easily pushed everyone away tens of meters away. The black clouds above the head slowly gathered over the valley, and one of them seemed to be watching everyone present. Du Wei was still whispering and never stopped. The incomprehensible knowledge was transformed into energy and gathered around Du Wei's body. Everyone in the periphery was far away from the center of the storm, and their consciousness gradually regained consciousness. They were soaked in a mixture of cold sweat and rain, and they dared not come any closer. Du Wei bears a huge amount of knowledge alone. Just when he is about to lose his mind and is about to be swallowed, he finally analyzes the summoning spell. On the Tree of Truth pattern, after a while, a crack appeared in the trunk of the Tree of Truth, and black air overflowed, as if something was about to break through the stone wall and spew out. The overflowing black air expanded rapidly, forming an arch. Boom! Boom! There was a huge knocking sound from the inside, and the ground trembled accordingly, and gravel rolled down on the rock wall, but there was no sound. The exception avoided the whispering Du Wei. Du Wei was not distracted by this, he was still muttering strange and inexplicable words, and he didn't stop until the arch slowly opened a gap. The torrential rain suddenly stopped, and the dark clouds that were still lifeless and heavy on the valley just now suddenly dissipated, and the blocked sun once again regained the air dominance and illuminated the earth. Only the black air slowly overflowing from the crack of the door reminded Du Wei that everything was not an illusion. Now that I think about it, I still feel a little scared. The black cat Asha didn't tell him that he needs to bear this kind of power, and he needs to personally perform the last step of spell analysis. Fortunately, Du Wei has lived here for 20 years. He is concentrating on studying the secret technique, otherwise he would not be able to open the channel with the knowledge of his previous life, and the result would inevitably be swallowed by the knowledge with the imprint of truth. The stone wall vibrated, and the arched door slowly opened. The inside was as dark as an abyss. A pair of big white hands pushed the door completely open to both sides. The boulder rubbed against the soil layer on the ground and brought up a burst of dust. The rumbling noise caught Du Wei's attention, and Du Wei stood up. "Come and stare at the black mist inside the door." A blonde, blue-eyed, heroic man came out of the black mist. He was wearing leather armor and carrying a wooden shortbow. This was the first player. When Du Wei focused his gaze on the blonde man, a holographic projection interface that only he could see was displayed beside the latter. Nickname, Turbo Duck Sex, Male Rank, Beginner San Value, 100%. Du Wei is very familiar with this interface. It is the RPG game interface created by him as an independent game producer in his previous life. Now it is used as a bridge connecting the two worlds, allowing humans on the Earth to project their spirits into this world. Superior. The San value displayed at this stage is just a false value, even if the impact caused by zeroing is within the tolerance range of most human beings. Turbo Duck looks like a real person, except that the face is more delicate. Between the two-dimensional paper man and the real person, the skin is smooth and translucent, and the pores are extremely small. It is absolutely super cute if you go out in women's clothing, unlike the group of rough guys behind Du Wei were as scruffy as they were. Are they really not going to die? Du Wei was a little uncertain, and reconfirmed with the black cat Ashen next to him softly. Didn't I tell you everything? These people just transfer part of their spiritual will. Even if they die, it will not be affected. Only when the pseudo-Zen value displayed in their status bar returns to zero, they will be temporarily insane, causing the main body is sluggish, but this kind of damage can be recovered slowly with the passage of time. After you have accumulated enough energy, you can also directly purify their spiritual pollution. Asaya did not speak in front of the players according to Du Wei's request, but to communicate with him through spiritual ideas. Then I have a veritable undead army. Du Wei clenched his fists with both hands, and his slack eyes condensed a gleam of light, full of excitement. The first blonde-haired man who came out of the door, Turbo Duck, was standing on the spot and jumping sideways repeatedly, waving his limbs wildly. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. This game has a high degree of restoration, and it is actually similar to the promotional CG. Do the same as in the several people came out from behind him one after another, and heard Turbo Duck say that the game has a high degree of restoration. A player nicknamed Orphan in the Twist, who was carrying a giant wooden sword, hurriedly opened his trousers and looked down. Beep, another false propaganda online game that can't take off its underwear. After speaking, Orphan in the Twist put on his pants and walked towards Du Wei with an expression that the whole world owed him 5 million. According to Du Wei's instructions, Black Cat designed an anti-harmony system, which slightly restricted the player's behavior. The kind of game content that can only be played by adults does not exist here, and all players have underwear on their bodies. Even uncivilized language will be harmonized, and others can only hear a beep. Du Wei recovered from the little excitement just now and looked up at the player in front of him. The other party stared at him with a pair of dead fish eyes. Those who didn't know thought that the SAN value of this product had reached the critical point and was about to go crazy. Up. Du Wei reconfirmed, but he saw the words that the SAN value was 50% on the other party's interface. Depend on. It turned out that it was not an illusion. What happened? Du Wei was about to speak when he was interrupted by Orphan Twist, Doug Victor, with an English name but a Chinese face, black hair, and black pupils. What did the designer think? Your dad was it green? This sentence made Du Wei choke and almost couldn't catch his breath. Du Wei grew up bothered by others talking about his appearance, especially those half-brothers who were jealous of his handsome appearance. Du Wei's mother is an Oriental, and his appearance mostly follows his mother's characteristics, which is why this happened, or it was influenced by the previous life, and the genes were engraved in the soul and came to this world with him, resulting in he is handsome. Looking at the beating face of the person in front of him, Du Wei made a plan. They are now in a position where they can only provide some rations for the guards and themselves, and have nothing else. It also requires players to keep the SAN value low in order to find it from other creatures around them. It is better to let the players who are not pleasing to the eye go out to hunt, and turn in the ingredients to increase the food reserves. Even if the ingredients are not hit, they can be frightened and give back a certain amount of energy to the lantern. Lucky brave man from another world, welcome to this planet where human beings are at stake. Before Du Wei could finish speaking, Orphan in the Twist City interrupted again. What kind of game is this? The plot can't be skipped yet. Come on, let's talk about it. What am I doing? Stop talking so much nonsense. The corners of Du Wei's mouth twitched slightly, and veins popped faintly on his temples. I want to test whether you have the aptitude of a brave man first. You go to the village to hunt 2 nocturnal rabbits to prove your strength, but be careful, if you are about to fall into madness. If so, quickly retreat to the village. At the same time, a light screen appeared in front of Orphan Twist. Reminder, SAN value dropped to 20% means you are mentally weak, timid and helpless, and have suffered excessive fright during the game. Please get out of the battle quickly and return to the village to recuperate. Of course, if you are so cowardly, you can also choose to go offline and return to the embrace of the immersion cabin to cry. Seeing the gentle reminder on the light screen, Orphan in the fog rolled his eyes, let out a cold hum, looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, and remained silent. Seeing that there was no movement from the visitor for a long time, Du Wei turned around and walked away. Seeing that Du Wei didn't pay attention to him, the Orphan in the fog ran over to stop him. Look at the sun in the sky, isn't it big and round? Du Wei was puzzled, looked up at the sun, and returned subconsciously, yeah, what's wrong? Then you asked me to kill nocturnal rabbits. You said they were nocturnal rabbits. Where can I find them in broad daylight? Orphan in the Twist City put his hands on his hips and looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle again. Du Wei originally thought that novices would definitely not be able to beat the low-level monsters such as goblins and kobolds that appeared in groups in the Forest of Shadows. The targets that would not appear in groups and were slightly challenging were let him deal with them, but he was despised unexpectedly. Then if you can hunt other monsters, you are considered qualified. And I will give you double rewards. Orphan in the Twist City finally turned his gaze back to Du Wei. From this point of view, the degree of freedom is quite high, and the NPC can actually change the mission target according to my reaction. Is there any novice equipment? Will I be allowed to use this weapon? Wooden sword to kill monsters. Is it possible that in Western fantasy games there is a setting that there is a sword in your heart and everything is a sword? After speaking, he deliberately poked the giant wooden sword in his hand on the ground, and then patted it with his hands. Du Wei was smiling, and he was buying skins in his heart. You see, our village doesn't even have a place to shelter from the rain. Where can I find better weapons for you, not to mention that you brought this wooden sword from the original world? It has nothing to do with us. When setting the initial state of the player, the Black Cat Asha converted part of the energy of the lantern into resource points for the player to use according to Du Wei's request. Players can use the resource points to customize the weapons and equipment they want according to their preferences. Of course, the resources required for wooden products and metal products are very different. After Oliver Twist made an armor jacket, he only has enough resource points to make an iron dagger. Such a small weapon is not suitable for him as the main tank. Because of his temperament, he simply replaced it with a huge wooden sword. At least in terms of momentum, it looks very cool. Hey, that's right. Looking at your poor appearance, you can tell that you can only be the village chief of Xinqiao village. Orphan in the Wudu buttoned his booger and flicked it casually. Fortunately, Du Wei can dodge quickly, otherwise his hidden weapon will be caught in the iron. Du Wei remembered this person, and he must be properly arranged in the future. It's fine to kill the night rabbit, said Turbo Duck, who was listening to the conversation between the two. Du Wei was a little embarrassed when he saw this little brother Sunshine. He was a well-known up-master of the game division that Du Wei had favored for a long time, in order to promote it through him. The task of killing the night rabbit is for orphans of the Wudu. If he accepts it, it may not be suitable. Just when Du Wei was hesitating, Turbo Duck continued, I don't seem to have the qualifications of a brave man. The village chief can't be partial. Well, yes, this brave man will complete the mission as long as he can kill 2 nocturnal rabbits. Du Wei turned his head and smiled at Turbo Duck. This might have turned into favoring Orphan in the twist. Fortunately, Du Wei left room for it at first. Public tasks are sent out for them to work together to complete. Actually, I also have the same question. Does Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com have that nocturnal rabbit come out during the day? Turbo Duck asked respectfully. That forest is called the Forest of Shadows. It is shrouded in shade all year round. Even when the sun is shining at noon, they will come out to move around. Du Wei patiently explained to Turbo Duck. Okay, Turbo Duck, who got the answer, walked towards Howard with a short bow on his back. Do you have a mission here that you can take? Howard looked blank. Accept? Accept the mission? Oh. Yes, I am the owner of the grocery store here, but the house was destroyed in the last Warcraft invasion. If you can help me find some repair materials, I can get friendliness. Before Turbo Duck could reply, Orphan Twist interjected, get your friendliness? Let's not complain about this mission reward for now. With your way of speaking, is the producer so short of funds? Editing the dialogue content will be enough. So difficult? There is no sense of substitution at all, 0 bad reviews. Howard was a little nervous, and looked at Du Wei blankly, not knowing what he did wrong. The script that Du Wei arranged for everyone yesterday did not go into great detail. He just asked everyone to make appeals according to the situation, and told those outsiders that in this way, they could gain their own favorability. Talk. Du Wei on the side felt a slight pain in his head, not to mention the problems on the player's side, even his cronies couldn't make people worry. This game was independently completed by a producer. It is a miracle that it can reach the current level. Can you say less? Du Wei was very pleased to hear that, and secretly decided that when squeezing players, he would relax the requirements for Turbo Ducks. Thanks for watching, please subscribe. Cut. Orphan in the Wudu showed a disdainful expression, I'm too lazy to be as knowledgeable as a child like you. After speaking, he walked to a big tree and tried to chop it with a giant solid wooden sword. The seemingly powerful blow fell on the big tree. The big tree didn't move at all, but there was a gap in the wooden sword. Looking carefully, there were tiny cracks on the sword. According to how Oliver in the twist used it, it took less than half a day. You can break this wooden sword. The movement just now was a bit big, which attracted everyone's attention. After they saw him cut down the tree, they walked towards Du Wei again with a sword in hand. Is there any merchant in your village who buys sundries? Du Wei stared at the only thing in Orphan Twist's hand, the wooden sword. Yes, but if you want to sell this thing, I advise you to burn it as firewood. Why? I don't like the magical weapon I brought from another world? Don't look at its useless look, it's because it hasn't integrated with the laws of this world. When it is compatible with the environment here, let me tell you, don't be scared to pee your pants. Oliver Twist put on an imposing look. I'm not afraid of peeing my pants, but I'm afraid you will make me pee my pants laughing. Du Wei imitated the other party's appearance and replied with a pair of dead fish eyes. Don't be your loss. Orphan Twist pouted and finished, then turned and walked to other NPCs, and began to recommend his wooden sword to them one by one. Everyone had just gathered not far away, and they all heard the conversation between the two. At this moment, no one was willing to talk to Orphan of the Twist, and only regarded him as a fool. Turbo Duck chatted with all the NPCs, and took several tasks to increase friendship, basically recruiting him to be a coolie to help repair the house or find various building materials. Turbo Duck is not the kind of life player, and he is not interested in building houses and reclaiming wasteland. What's more, there are no construction tools or logging tools here. Could it be that he is required to pluck the trees by hand? But if you think about it carefully, there are really games like this, but the audience is limited. In order to accumulate initial energy, Du Wei delivered the first wave of invitations to players who are keen on adventure and death. Most of the people present had the same idea as Turbo Duck, and they basically didn't talk to other NPCs. Assigned tasks. Turbo Duck ignored those life-related tasks, thinking that the tasks that Du Wei explained should be the main line, and it involved fighting monsters. At first, Du Wei thought that Turbo Duck had gone to the edge of the forest to pick branches. When he realized it, Turbo Duck had gone deep into the forest and disappeared. Although it is just hunting a creature that is not classified as a monster, such as a night rabbit, it is not easy to find a place in the forest full of monsters. In comparison with the creatures on the Blue Star, the night rabbit's combat power is equivalent to that of an Australian kangaroo. Although it eats grass, its upper body is muscular. When it encounters the lowest level monsters such as kobolds and goblins, it will not even have a trace of resistance. None, even untrained ordinary adults can easily knock them down with a few punches. However, most of the time, they will not actively attack humans, so they are not classified as monsters. Although Du Wei needs to collect the emotional energy generated by the players when they are frightened, he doesn't want them to go to die alone and endure the mental stimulation beyond the limit, especially this well-known game division up master who made him place high hopes. He originally intended for these players who had just entered the game to form a team to challenge, but his words were interrupted by Orphan Twist many times, and he got confused and forgot about it. Turbo Duck only got the name Night Rabbit from Du Wei, and has no idea about its physical appearance. It just thinks that it is similar to ordinary online games, and the name will automatically pop up on the top of its head when it sees the target. As a result, when he entered the forest, he was embarrassed to find that the things here were not like the group of NPCs in the village. The name would be automatically displayed on the top of his head. A row of question marks and an unknown property prompt will be displayed. And many of these creatures are aggressive, even snails dare to spray water to nourish them. Seeing these guys, Turbo Duck feels a little uncomfortable. Even the nocturnal rabbits don't know what they look like, so how should they hunt? Fortunately, Turbo Zengya has a skill climbing trees. When he came to the branch and looked down, he could observe farther away, but he still couldn't solve the problem in front of him. Just when he was troubled by this, a grey-black rabbit not far away attracted his attention. Force. The rabbit didn't notice the Turbo Duck, and was enjoying the pleasure of chewing the tender grass in its mouth. From the opening and closing of its mouth, it can be seen how happy it is at this time. Could this be the nocturnal rabbit? Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Compared with the animal Turbo Duck just encountered, this rabbit is quite petite, and it seems that there is no challenge, but the novice mission is originally to let the player get familiar with the game. How can you set up a particularly difficult monster for the player to kill? Turbo Duck carefully raised his bow and arrow to aim at the rabbit. Turbo Duck, who had never shot an arrow in reality, just imitated what he saw on TV. Now he pulled the bowstring and realized that he had chosen the wrong weapon. The slightly trembling forearm can't aim at all. Even if it is aimed at 3 points and one line according to the gun training in military training, Turbo Duck is not sure whether this is also applicable to bows and arrows. You will never know the result just by guessing. Although the game is real, it still can't completely restore the reality. Maybe after the arrow flies out, it will accidentally hit the rabbit accurately. Turbo Duck let go of the fingers holding the arrow feathers, and there was no sound of in his imagination, only the sound of ton made by the twitch of the bowstring echoed softly in the forest. The rabbit stood up, stopped the movement of its mouth and looked at the Turbo Duck. The Turbo Duck couldn't bear to look directly at the arrow that was hit by the bowstring and flew less than 1 meter away. He doesn't know how to shoot arrows, he doesn't even know how to press the end of the arrow on the bowstring. The arrow can fly this distance, thanks to the strength of the bowstring. When it rebounds, it happens to draw the end of the arrow. The movement just now caused a commotion, and there seemed to be something big hidden in the grass behind the little rabbit, just about to move. Under Turbo Duck's gaze, 2 1.8-meter tall long-eared black rabbits standing on their hind legs emerged from the grass behind the little rabbits. Their quivering pecs, tight biceps, and angular 12-pack abs all swear by the fury of the rabbits. Turbo Duck's Adam's apple moved slightly, swallowing saliva. Could this be the legendary night-walking rabbit father and night-walking rabbit mother? Hearing their names, they seem timid and fearful. They have to walk at night to survive. It must be because of too much water. Too weak and dare not come out during the day, but this posture has nothing to do with being weak and helpless. Turbo Duck didn't know that this creature was obviously a legendary hunter. When he went hunting, the nocturnal rabbits who felt the powerful aura approaching all ran away. In his opinion, this small animal is weak and weak. Synonymous with helplessness. The 2 rabbits jumped aggressively to the bottom of the big tree that Turbo Duck climbed, and it seemed that this posture was to have a good chat with him about the archery just now. Turbine Duck thought about it. The arrow flew less than 1 meter, and it couldn't hurt the 2 nocturnal rabbit babies below at all. If we really want to talk about this issue seriously, at most he littered the garbage in the forest. Do rabbits have such a temper these days? When they see someone littering in the forest, they come over with killing intent. Seeing Turbo Duck unconsciously, the 2 rabbit masters have come here and still can't come down, so the rabbit masters decided to help him and started boxing and plucking trees. Turbo Duck was startled. Is this fist made of iron? Just now Orphan in the Twist City was unable to shake the tree with a 2-meter long and half-meter wide solid wood sword, but these 2 guys can hit the 2 trees with bare hands. The tree that could only be embraced by 3 people trembled. Is there a mistake in the way I open the game? Is this really a sandbox construction game that uses hand-rolling trees? Another black cat, Asaya, reported to Du Wei, the sand value of the Turbo Duck is dropping, but the vital signs have not changed, and it has begun to provide energy for the lantern. Du Wei was secretly delighted. He didn't expect that the small task he casually used to fool the players would have an effect so quickly. It's just that the victim changed from Orphan in the Twist City to Turbo Duck. I'm sorry for this brother, and I will definitely compensate him in the future return. Although it is also important to build houses for everyone and repair the living environment, it is the most important task to inject energy into the lantern and ensure that the black candle does not go out. Originally, it was only someone who came to ask Du Wei to release the mission of the Brave test. Now that the effect is obvious, Du Wei, who decided not to be a human being, immediately got up and went to other players to release the mission of the Brave test one by one. A player nicknamed Director Ma is currently running a live broadcast to explain the powerful interactivity of this game to the audience. Look, the one behind me who lifts this tree trunk with me is the owner of the grocery store in Xinchao village. Let me tell him a story. People couldn't carry it and needed help, but he really came over. However, as a rookie anchor, his audience is very small, only a few people are watching, and Director Ma continues to explain. The only flaw is that the intelligence setting of this NPC is a bit low. He doesn't think about what this tree trunk can do. It was all burnt by lightning. Is the house built to kill the residents? It doesn't make sense to move it here. When Du Wei came here, he caught a glimpse of Howard helping the players carry a scorched tree trunk like a man of iron. Du Wei, who didn't know what they wanted to do, walked in and just heard what the horse guide said. What's the matter with the anchor these days? Ordinary work can no longer meet the needs of the audience. Why do you come to the game to molest the NPC? You can molest as long as you molest. You can find some smart ones, if you have to play with a Taihanin. Du Wei thought about it again. If the audience of the anchor in front of him is not all cloud players, but also wants to experience it for himself, then it is estimated that the number of logins will exceed 200 in a short time. Fortunately, I only sent 100 invitation advertisements and set up 200 people to go online. Otherwise, if there are more such anchors, before these players get on the right track to give back energy to myself, I will be overloaded by the number of people, and my energy will be exhausted. Exhausted, the spiral ascended to heaven. More and more players came here through the channel of truth. At the beginning, they were all normal human images, and slowly some players with light bones appeared. A female player nicknamed Hell's Chef came out of the passage with a pair of rabbit ears on her head, and started playing with her ears as soon as she came out. It felt very strange. After all, it was an organ that didn't exist before, and she thought it was just a decoration. Hell's Chef's rabbit ears are too unique, and soon attracted a large number of players to watch. Few half-orcs in this world have a human-like face. At most they can speak and stand, such as goblins, dog heads for monsters like humans. The guards have never seen a half-orc with a good face and only slightly alienated in a very few organs. Several young guys among them got together excitedly to discuss. In the eyes of the guards, this is a special race in the world Du Wei lived in before. He rushed over to watch like those players. How did you make this shape? I didn't find the option to add animal ears in the options. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Another female player asked. You are talking about modifying the preset image. There is also a custom option at the top. Click that to remodel the model from scratch. The initial state is a meatball that you can shape into whatever you want, but the internal structure I'm not familiar with it, and I still use human presuppositions. Although I can control these rabbit ears with consciousness, they have no practical use. Hell Chef lifted the hair on one side, revealing the human ear. The sense of hearing still relies on normal human ears. Seeing this scene, the corners of Du Wei's eyes twitched. The most indispensable thing these years is the wonderful work. Du Wei has the full authority to design the image designed to the Black Cat Asia. Judging from the current degree of freedom in design, it may not take long. The village will be filled with all kinds of monsters created by the players. Hey, your character creation is designed with such a high degree of freedom, it's really inappropriate for some players to create a strange shape and run around here. Du Wei whispered to the black cat. The black cat Asha scratched her head. Ahaha, will such a situation happen? Yes, it shouldn't be the case. The rabbi-tiered lady just said that if you want to be completely free to play, you must at least understand the structure of the species you want to pinch. It's not as simple as just drawing a shell. The internal structure design can't meet the minimum survival standard, so you can't pass through the channel of truth. This is the real world, not a game. Everything must be constructed according to the laws of the universe. As I talked more and more, I felt that my design must be fine. Hearing this, Du Wei was also relieved a lot. This setting at least limits the characters that most unconstrained players can design to the human category, and will not suddenly crawl out of the passage of truth. Coupled with the restrictions on the use of resource points, it is absolutely impossible to pinch a 5-meter tall giant out.